Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Above the Rim Rundown, where we run down all things NBA. I am one of your hosts, Memo, and right beside me, I've got Hoops. How you doing?
Hey, what's going on, man? Overall, I've been doing good. Hanging in there. Getting through the normal routine. I feel like this week work went like kind of slowish, but it was all right, honestly. Got through it. Kind of busy also a little bit, like whatnot with like the boss doing like the team meetings and whatnot. But
Mm,
overall, it's okay, yeah. Pretty much just talking about like goals for the next few months. That's how those type of meetings, shall we say.
yeah,
But um which are kind of annoying, but
I bet.
gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah, but aside from that, honestly, I've been good. Just pulling through in life and definitely some exciting stuff we are about to cover today.
Yeah,
How have you been?
I've been good. I kind of started going back to work this week. Kind of a slow get back because there's not a lot of jobs, but I'm going back. I feel a little rusty, but I'm sure that I'll be fine with it the next 2 weeks. And
Oh yeah, you'll
yeah, and other than that, nothing much. I've been uploading to my channel. I've been busy there. I've been listening to a lot of music. I've been going to the gym more consistently. This is the first week in a while where I went like every weekday. So happy about that. And yeah, as you mentioned, we got a interesting little episode for today, where we will be covering some of the biggest and I guess more interesting games that are gonna be coming up this upcoming season. Since pretty recently, the NBA schedule was released, the entire schedule for every game in the league, for every team, and we're gonna cover some of the big ones, some of the highlighted ones, and we'll just talk about what we are interested in. But first, we got some news kind of relating to what we talked about last week. Um, do you want to start things off by going over the news?
Yeah. All right. So, we'll start off by talking about a brief free agency news. Obviously, this late in the off season, there isn't really that many free agency moves that really happen. But one of them is a quite interesting and exciting one. Gershon Yabusele, the French legend in the Olympics, getting his NBA opportunity again, signed a 1 year contract with the Philadelphia 76ers for $2.1 million, and definitely well deserved after he showcased his skills and put the league on notice in the Olympics. This will be his first time returning to the league since a very brief stint with the Boston Celtics in 2019, which he then left the NBA to play in Real Madrid. So, obviously, last week we did our Olympics overview video, and one of the things was when we talked about France is very impressive run. Huge factor was because of Yabusele. So, shout out to him. Really happy for him getting an opportunity back in the league, and sneaky good signing by the Sixers, I will say.
Yeah, the
Um,
Sixers have had such a great offseason, obviously getting the biggest name this offseason with Paul George. And it just kept getting better and better with Andre Drummond joining as well and so on. But yeah, this Yabusele pickup was great. He showcased in front of the whole world that he is a beast. He is this very, very strong man. And yeah, LeBron knows that for sure after he got dunked
yeah,
on.
posted him.
uh, which was a little unfortunate for him. But I'm happy for Yabusele. He deserves it after how he played for France, and hopefully this is a start for a more lengthy career for him. But we'll see.
Definitely. And I remember the broadcast was talking about saying something about like Gershon initially kind of accepted his fate. Like he didn't believe he was going to have the opportunity to go back to the NBA. And look where we're at now. He has an opportunity to potentially be in the league. So shout out to him.
Shout out to him. But yeah, for news, that's basically it. We can now pivot to the 2024-2025 NBA season schedule. And yeah, there's a lot of key dates to go over. Probably the most important date is October 22nd, which is the start of the regular season. Um, should we go over the like opening week games, or should we go over the other notable dates before doing that?
I would say, why not? Let's just go over the opening night games or opening week games, shall we say.
All right, let's do that. So on the very first day of the season, we've got a doubleheader that's going to be on TNT. I think that's a good thing to note because this is the final season
Yeah,
where TNT will
farewell
be
season.
broadcasting. Exactly. So this is their farewell season. And watching the games on October 22nd is going to be very vital because I'm very curious on what Charles Barkley is going to say because we know he has no filter. I'm pretty sure he's going to bring up how it's going to be the last season for them, and I'm very curious about if he's gonna be relentless or not. But yeah, the double header is Knicks versus Celtics. Is this when the Celtics are getting their rings?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, but hopefully they lose to the Knicks that day. The now
Yeah, that would
enhanced
be really
Knicks.
great.
That would be great.
Yeah,
And
the new
then
look Knicks,
the new looks
fully
Knicks.
loaded.
And then the second game is the Timberwolves versus the Lakers, which should be a very very exciting game as well. And hopefully the Lakers can win that
Definitely.
one.
Hopefully, not gonna be easy, but hopefully. Um, and I've seen some of like the funny and at this moment, honestly, looking sadly true comment. It's saying like Lakers are the polar bear in Arlington, Texas, aka the one team that's not really as a real contender as the other three. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I don't really have much to say towards that comment at the moment.
I still
Hopefully, they can
believe.
shock
God
some.
damn it!
I mean, I'm gonna say this. I wouldn't be shocked if the Lakers do shock a lot of people. At this very moment, though, there's just a lot of question marks. But yeah, I
True.
think that'll definitely still be a really good matchup. Two really good games on opening night. Should be exciting for sure.
Right. And so that's Tuesday. That's the opening day, October 22nd. And then very next day on Wednesday, October 23rd, another doubleheader. We got Bucks versus Sixers, two teams that would most likely be fighting for second or third seed right behind the Celtics. So that should be exciting, especially seeing Paul George play for the Sixers for the very first time. I think that's a cool thing to note. And another cool thing to note is Suns versus Clippers at Intuit Dome, I believe, right? For the very first time.
Yeah, their first game at the Intuit Dome, no longer sharing a stadium with the Lakers. Um, I will say this. It's good that they got out of Staples Center, but at the same time, they don't deserve that good of a stadium that they're getting. At the end of the day, when the Lakers go to Intuit Dome, it's still going to be a Lakers home game. So that would also be very exciting to see also.
It should be
Um,
for sure.
Definitely. But, anyhow, yeah, that's a pretty good matchup NBA scheduled for the Clippers opener at their new stadium. In division rivalry game with the Suns. Obviously, a lot of playoff battles those two teams had in the last few years, with the Suns winning both of the two.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those are two interesting matchups that night too. Bucks Sixers also being battle of two Eastern juggernauts, potentially, hopefully being challengers to the Celtics. Should be a good night. Day two, night of the opening season.
Now for Dame. I guess I was thinking about the Bucks. For day three, Thursday, October 24th, we got the battle of the Texans, Spurs versus Mavericks, Wemby versus Luca. That should be an interesting matchup. And then right after
It's
is OKC versus the Nuggies. Which game?
battle.
Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, battle of the top two seeds in the Western Conference last year.
True, true.
Um, People seem to forget OKC was the number one seed because they lost in the second
Wait, was
round,
it the
but
Nuggets third seed, or am I tripping?
um, they were second seed. Remember they
Second seed.
lost Game 7 at home against the Timberwolves?
Yeah, I remember they faced the Lakers first round too. Like the Lakers were seventh.
Yeah, because they were two, we were seven.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right.
Um,
But which matchup
yeah. But
are
to
you more looking forward
answer
to?
your yeah, I was gonna say to answer your question, both of these are really good matchups. Obviously, the Texas battle, Texas rivalry, always a good matchup from all the different eras, like back in the day, Duncan versus Dirk, um, and so forth before that even. And then now, Luca and Wemby, definitely a must-see matchup. But at the end of the day, though, I gotta give the upper edge to the battle of the one and two seeds from last season, being OKC and Denver. Simply due to the fact that I think that these two teams are going to be right up there again once when it's all said and done at the end of the year. And I know like Mavs should be good too this year, and Spurs will be better, probably in contention for the playoffs. But at the end of the day, though, I do think that the combination of OKC and Denver is definitely better than the combination of San Antonio and Mavs in terms of where I would expect these two teams to finish at the end of the season. So I would say definitely the second game of the back to back that night between OKC and Denver. I look forward to a little bit more.
Okay.
How about you, Memo? Which
Uh,
one do you look forward to more?
I think overall I agree with you. I'll say the Nuggets are probably gonna be a little weaker this upcoming
Oh yeah,
season.
losing
Um,
KCP and
and also say the Mavs will have Klay Thompson playing for the first time, so that would also be an interesting reason why to watch the Spurs Mavs game. But yeah, I agree.
yeah,
OKC versus Nuggets is probably the way to go. But let's move on.
yeah, and
Oh, sorry.
yeah. I was gonna say, well, just like a brief comment. When you mentioned about Denver probably taking a step back this season, I agree. Um, I honestly feel like the Mavs are probably gonna take a step back too.
True, true.
They'll still be good, but yeah, it's gonna be tough for them to match last year, obviously, since they made the finals.
The West in general is
Yeah,
just
but
gonna
that
be
being said,
so tough this year.
oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, I would say both really entertaining matchups.
All right, now let's move on to day four, Friday, October 25th. Pacers versus Knicks, Suns versus Lakers. Um, you know, Knicks and Pacers played each other this past not off season, playoffs.
Semifinals.
But I don't think it's gonna be in the Pacers' favorite again this time. I feel like the Knicks are gonna
I
take
agree.
that. And then Suns and
Yeah,
Lakers
I think
had several great games this past season, so I'm sure that's gonna be a great game as well.
definitely. And say this, the new Knicks like fully loaded now. I definitely think that one, they want to get the revenge on Indiana after that Game 7 tough loss that they had. Um, I feel like this game is probably not going to be that close. Like I feel like the Knicks are going to come out like really angry, want to get their revenge, and they're going to blow the door open against the Pacers. And the Suns and the Lakers, I for sure think will definitely be a good and competitively close matchup. Like last year, there were a few games that were blowouts between these two teams, but most of them were close. And obviously, what happened last year was Lakers and Suns played each other 5 times due to that extra game in the in-season tournament. And Lakers won the first 3, and the Suns won the last 2. And unfortunately, the game that the Suns won were more blowouts versus the Lakers one were more like close, hard-fought games. Nonetheless, though, I think it's going to be a hard-fought game for this night. And Lakers being at home, I think will certainly help them. Um, I really don't know who's gonna be better, honestly, this year. I feel like both teams have clear flaws on their roster. While at the same time, both teams could be really good if they're at their full potential being met. So I think that will definitely be. I honestly think the Suns and the Lakers game would be a more competitive, entertaining matchup between the two here. What do you think, Memo?
Oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, the Pacers are no slouch. Like, let's put some respect on that team. They still got Siakam. They still
Yeah,
got Halliburton. So maybe um, they'll do well against the
they could
Knicks.
get Ben Mathurin back too after he was out for a good chunk
Oh
last
yeah,
year.
yeah. But it's for
So that'll
sure
help
the Suns versus the Lakers. And then
definitely.
last day for the opening week. I feel like this is gonna be the weakest day out of all the days we covered,
Yeah.
which is on
Well, it is.
Saturday, October 26th. And we've got Clippers versus
Yeah.
Nuggets, Magic versus Grizzlies, and Kings versus Lakers. Which one's probably the game you would want to check out the most?
So I'm gonna start off by continuing your point. Definitely the weakest slate from the ones listed, and I would say makes sense because this night is all gonna be NBA TV games, as opposed to TNT or ESPN. So I guess usually those games are not really as like primetime premier matchups. Um, I would honestly say probably the best matchup here would be the Clippers and the Nuggets because those two teams usually always do put up good battles. Obviously, the Nuggets owned the Clippers for a while, but then last year, for whatever reason, the Clippers were able to beat them a few times. Nonetheless, I think that will be a really good game. I would say second. I would say Kings and the Lakers second, and then the Magic and the Grizzlies third, as far as how I'd rank these games from most entertaining to least. Um, Like, I think that Lakers and Kings will be entertaining because of the California rivalry, but obviously, Kings kind of have had our number the last few years, and it's really frustrating. But hopefully, we can get over the hump and beat them this time. Um, but I will say this though. Magic and the Grizzlies, I think is the least entertaining of these matchups, but I still think it's going to be a good matchup. And the reason being is both of these rosters, both of these teams being really young and having up and coming stars. Like the Magic with Paulo, they have Franz, and also Moritz. They also have ACP added to the unit now, so they're definitely going to be better. Jalen Suggs there also. And then for the Grizzlies, obviously still have John Morant. He just needs to stay healthy and get out of trouble. Um, and then now they also have GG Jackson, who had a pretty good rookie year last year. Jaren Jackson Jr. still a really good defensive anchor. I think that will definitely be a really good matchup to watch still. But overall, I would say the Clippers and the Nuggets, I think, will be the most entertaining. Um, Memo, thoughts?
Funny enough, I feel like that's the one I'm least interested in. Like, it's probably gonna be a
It's
good
interesting.
game, but like, I don't
Yeah,
think the Clippers are gonna be that much better than last year. Same with the
yeah.
Nuggets, and uh, I don't know. I feel like it'd be to me it's less interesting. Like I think it's the Laker fan in
I
me that
feel
wants
like
to watch the Lakers Kings more, and then I'm also curious about seeing Morant playing again and Zach Edey playing with the Grizzlies as well. So that's why I'm a little more
yeah,
interested in the Magic Grizzlies game.
yeah.
But yeah, there's a
My
good
bad.
chance that the Clippers and Nuggets is gonna be a good game too. They're probably around, maybe not around the same level. I think Nuggets are like a tier above, but they're both good teams.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Also, I was gonna say, my bad for forgetting to mention Zach Edey just now. Definitely look forward to seeing him play for sure.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
think he'll have us
He'll be very interesting to watch. But yeah, that's opening
definitely.
week,
Um,
and I guess we can move on to some of the other dates. Like November
yeah.
2nd. November 2nd is going to be interesting because NBA will be playing in Mexico City. There will be not two games, there will be one game, Miami Heat versus the Wizards. And that's notable because the Miami Heat does have a Mexican American player on the team, Jaime Jaquez Jr., who was one of my favorite rookies from last year. I'm excited to see him play once again. And having him play in Mexico is a genius marketing move as well because you know the Mexican crowd are going to show out. Any thoughts on this night?
Um, I think definitely really cool because a lot of basketball fans over there, and even cooler that they're gonna be having a Mexican American in Jaime Jaquez Jr. representing. Um, that being said, the matchup itself, I don't think is very good because the Heat is gonna be a contender and the Wizards are just trash. They're gonna be a bottom feeder lottery team again.
I wouldn't say
Um,
contender for the Heat though, but they'll most likely make the playoffs.
Yeah, I would say up in the air. Like they'll definitely make the playoffs in my opinion. And then if they do make the playoffs, I don't know, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I will say this still Eastern Conference being weak, that makes their possibility of
Yeah,
being
it definitely
contenders
helps.
high.
It definitely helps.
Yeah, definitely.
And you
But
made a
yeah,
good point
I don't think
too. Uh, I
go
do
ahead. Mm.
I do agree that this isn't the most exciting matchup. Like I feel bad that
Yeah,
the one day Mexico gets a game, they have to watch the Washington Wizards of all
I
teams.
know.
Like if they're gonna put a
Uh-huh.
bad team in there, they should have put the Bulls. Because the Bulls is such a legendary team that a lot of
Yeah,
Mexican fans are just gonna go because they know the Bulls. They know the team, the Bulls. So they'll just go
I
because
agree.
of the branding. So if they were gonna put a bad team, they should have put the Bulls. But for some
Yeah.
reason, the Washington Wizards are gonna play, and they're gonna have to watch Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma play on the same court together. That's
I
very
know.
unfortunate.
It's crazy. I was gonna say, like, even like imagine if they did Miami Heat versus Chicago Bulls. Like that's a classic rivalry there. That would be pretty cool for fans to see. But yeah, Wizards, not very exciting.
No. What is exciting though is what's happening on November 12th, which is uh the day the Emirates is. Am I saying that correctly? Emirates.
Emirates. Yeah,
Emirates. The start of the Emirates NBA Cup, formerly known as the in-season tournament, and this will go on for a little over a month. Maybe later in the off season, we'll like cover the rules again for the NBA Cup and how it works. But uh,
yeah. We can cover the rules once again. Maybe we can even predict like scheduled group stage games.
that's a good idea as
Yeah,
well.
we'll come
Uh,
up with something there.
we'll come up
Don't you
with
guys
something.
worry.
But for now, let's just give
Yeah.
the dates. So November 12th is the day the Emirates NBA Cup starts. December 3rd would be the NBA Cup group stages conclusion. So between those two dates will be the group stages. Each team will face each other within their own group, and it's always a big. It was a big deal last year. Like I feel like I forgot which weekdays. I think it was like a Tuesday and Thursday. They played these
I think
games, and then you could tell that they're playing for the cup because of the courts they play on. They played on like a special court, so everybody knows that this
yeah.
game matters a bit more. So yeah, between those dates are the group stages, and the teams with the best records move on to the NBA Cup quarterfinals, that which is on December 10th and 11th. On December 14th are the Cup semifinals, and then December 17th we are going to Vegas for the NBA Cup championship. I was a big fan of the, I guess, in season tournament last year. Maybe because the Lakers ended up winning, that's why I enjoyed it. Are you
Yeah.
excited that it's coming back? And are you like, what are your thoughts on this?
All right, guys. So, due to a few technical difficulties, I decided to change devices. So now I am on my phone. Okay, now back to the topic. Um, so to continue on the in-season tournament, I'm definitely really glad that it's returning, simply due to the fact that last year there were so many good, entertaining matchups, and like before the in-season tournament, aka now the Emirates NBA Cup, November, December was a time where a lot of NBA fans kind of like snoozed away due to lack of interest in games, because I wouldn't say it's not because the games are not important. It's because that like the stakes are just not necessarily as high that early in the season versus like the end of the season or the playoffs. But by adding the tournament, fans are going to be more interested because they're actually playing to win for something. And I know obviously in season tournament is not the actual NBA championship. However, it's still cool to have some bragging rights. I mean, you can't deny that. I mean, people hate on it last year just because it's the Lakers that won it. Guarantee you, if their team won it, though, they wouldn't be saying anything. So, yeah, those haters need to stop seriously and go get some help if they want to keep denying it. Anyhow, yeah, I definitely do think it's a good idea that the NBA is bringing back the in-season tournament, aka the Emirates NBA Cup, for the second year. Um, so should be fun.
Right, it really should be. I thought it was a great idea last year. I think it was a great idea this year, and I'm glad they're continuing it. But let's move on from
Definitely.
the cup and talk about Christmas. Christmas games. Let's go. We've got five
Yeah.
Christmas games. We've got Spurs at Knicks, Timberwolves at Mavs, Sixers at Celtics, Lakers at Warriors, and then finally Nuggets at Suns. And yeah, I always check out a few of the games every Christmas, whether we have family or not. I really like watching the Christmas games. And out of these five, which one stands out the most to you?
I would honestly say the game that would stand out most to me here, kind of tough for me to say at the moment, but low key, I would not say this in any prior years, quite honestly, due to how lopsided the rivalry is. But honestly, this year, maybe the Sixers and the Celtics, due to like both teams being high contenders. And I will say this, me personally, it's not necessarily the game I look forward to most myself in terms of like me obviously being a Celtics hater. Okay, let me re-answer this question. Okay, which game do I per se think will be the best matchup? Then I think probably Sixers and Celtics. But which game am I looking most forward to? I gotta go with the Lakers and the Warriors because LeBron versus Steph, classic rivalry matchup. Obviously, we all know great friends off the court, had a great time playing with each other and during the Olympics, really fun. But now back to the regular program, playing against each other as rivals.
And they had some
And
crazy games last season too against each other, if I remember
yeah,
correctly.
especially the first one when the Lakers won in double overtime by 1 point, which was unfortunately the only game that the Lakers won between the two last year, but it was a damn good one, so gotta get that. Um, but yeah, I would say me personally, I think that one will be the one I look most forward to. But low key, maybe the Sixers and the Celtics would be the best matchup in terms of possibly a Eastern Conference preview or Eastern Conference Finals preview, possibly. What do you think, Memo?
For me, it's gotta be the Timberwolves and the Mavs. I think, uh, like how you thought about the most interesting and best matchups. I think the Timberwolves and Mavs are both the most interesting and best matchups to me because this is a rematch from the conference finals last year. Both teams are going to be really good next year. Seeing Luca and Ant going at it is going to be exciting once again. So to me, it's easily Timberwolves and Mavs. Lakers and Warriors are up there as well, for sure. Probably, if I were to rank them really quickly, Timberwolves, Mavs, Lakers, Warriors, Sixers, Celtics, Nuggets, Suns, and then Spurs, Knicks last, which is kind of funny because that's the first game of the
Yeah,
day.
hey, first is the worst, as they often use
Yeah,
it.
true, true.
No disrespect, by the way, because I do think it will be an interesting matchup.
Oh yeah, like watching Wemby in general is gonna be interesting.
Yeah. And to I guess kind of like add on to your point, I actually highly considered picking the Timberwolves and the Mavs as my number one. Ultimately, I think the reason why I chose the Sixers and the Celtics is just because like seeing well maybe this might not be their first matchup of the year, but definitely curious on like how the new look Sixers match up against the Celtics after adding Paul George. But I definitely could see a point for Timberwolves Mavs being better. As a matter of fact, I almost said that one, and I kind of like am neck and neck into potentially changing my answer to that one too. Point blank is I do think those are ultimately going to be the top two, and then probably Lakers and Warriors three, um, Nuggets Suns four, and the Spurs and Knicks last. So somewhat similar to your order, just a slight mix-up. Um, Overall, though, I think they should all be interesting matchups, and I will note one pretty funny fact for Christmas Day games. Um, the team that played against the Suns has made the NBA Finals 3 years in a row. Should be the last three NBA champs, if not for the Mavs losing. But yeah, um, 2021, the Warriors played the Suns on Christmas Day. They won the championship. 2022, the Nuggets played the Suns on Christmas Day. They won the championship. 2023, the Mavs played the Suns on Christmas Day. They made the finals. Unfortunately, didn't win the championship, but still a good accomplishment. So, maybe Denver, their turn to make it back to the finals this year. We'll see.
We'll see,
Um,
but that's an
but
interesting
yeah,
fact.
yeah, might as well label it as the Phoenix Suns annual Christmas Day loss.
All right, so those are the Christmas games. Now jumping into another holiday on January 20th, MLK Day. They have a three uh, team, I guess. I mean, three. What am I trying to say? Three matchups. They got three
Three,
matchups.
yeah, three.
They got Dallas versus Hornets, They got Timberwolves
Early.
versus yeah, early. They got
Yeah.
Timberwolves versus Grizzlies, and then Celtics versus Warriors. And the most interesting part about this is that they didn't include a Hawks game because they usually do include
Yeah.
Atlanta, uh, and unfortunately, it's not the case here. But out of these three, what's the most interesting for you?
Um, I would say probably Celtics and Warriors. Just because obviously not the same teams, but they did face against each other in the finals a few years ago. Um, Somewhat of a rivalry there, obviously, even though they only played each other once in the finals, so maybe not like a crazy rivalry, but still a little bit of a rivalry. Um, I would say I would say second would be the Wolves and the Grizzlies. Obviously, they played each other in the playoffs too a few years ago. Teams are completely different now, but should be a good one there, assuming everyone is healthy. And then the Mavs and the Hornets. I'm not sure if that will necessarily be that entertaining of a game.
Nah, no
Um,
way.
I don't think so. I mean, it should be an easy win for the Mavs. But we'll see. What maybe the Hornets will shock some people, do better than expected. Personally, I don't think so, but we'll see.
On the day
Um,
we honor one of the greatest Americans of all time, MLK, we are forced to watch Grant Williams play. No, thank you. That's very disrespectful.
yeah, it's actually very laughable. A Grant Williams quote unquote revenge game. Hey, guess what? It's also gonna be a PJ Washington revenge game. So um, that will be more like it.
Yeah, yeah. For me, I do think the Timberwolves and Memphis game is gonna be the most interesting. Especially since the Warriors, I think they're gonna fall off this season, like very, very much so. And I think the Grizzlies are gonna be really good. So
Yeah,
the Ant versus Jaw battle is gonna be very fun to watch. And I don't want to watch the Celtics. Like, to be honest with you, like I don't feel like watching the Celtics or the Warriors. I've never been like a big Warriors fan either. I've been a Steph fan, not a Warriors fan. So to me,
yeah,
give me the Wolves and the Bears, the Grizzlies.
yeah. I will say this though. If there's any one of these games that I would watch, it would be the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies game. Simply due to the fact that like I like the Timberwolves. The Grizzlies are a team where it's like I think they have a cool lineup of players. I'm not necessarily a fan or a hater of the franchise itself, but I do think that they have a fun squad. So I think that would be like more of the teams I would be willing to watch. Versus, as you mentioned, the Celtics and the Warriors. Hate both of those teams. The Mavs are cool, but like, do I really need to watch them play against the Hornets? Like, no, I'm not entertained by that matchup. So quite honestly, I feel like honestly, like depending on like my schedule, if I'm available or not. But like, if I were to pick one game to watch, it would be the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies. And then the other games, honestly, I'm good with skipping them.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I think Minnesota and Memphis would be like the closest game as well. So, yeah, that's what I'm looking at for MLK Day. And it's funny because, MLK Day, we're paying respect for one of the greatest Americans, as I said, a person that, just wanted peace in the world. And then the day
Yeah,
right after, January 21st, we got Rivals Day. We got Rivals Week, actually, where it's
yeah,
nothing, it's the opposite. It's not peaceful at all. We're going to have teams battling out, uh, being cutthroat against each other. And yeah, we've got some interesting matchups. I think Rivals Week has been pretty successful. Was it
definitely.
last year, the first year, or like 2 years ago they started Rivals Week? Do you remember?
I don't remember which year exactly, but I think it was one of these last 2 years.
Yeah, it was. It's a
And
very recent like thing. I just know that.
yeah, definitely a lot of intriguing matchups for sure, like last year. And looks like there will be some aplenty this year also,
I
which
think
we will go through fairly.
I think the double overtime Lakers Warriors game was during Rivals Week, if I remember
Oh,
correctly.
I think it might have been.
And they do get another matchup this year as well. But let's start at the beginning. So on Tuesday, January 21st, it's Knicks versus Brooklyn. So the Battle of New York versus Sixers versus Nuggets. Not like a traditional uh, rival, but it's the battle of the bigs. Embiid versus Nuggets,
Yeah,
which is actually one that I am looking forward to watch. But I'll talk about that a
yeah,
little later. Um, in more detail. But out of
yeah.
those 2 days, it's clearly the Sixers and Nuggets the best game, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. And obviously being due to the fact that the Nets just probably won't be very good this year.
Yeah, they're gonna be ass,
Yeah, they're gonna be trash. Like they might actually be in the running for the worst team. Like it's possible.
and that's their goal too.
Um,
So it's to be
yeah,
expected.
yeah. So no shame there. They need to rebuild. But yeah, easily the Sixers and Nuggets is the better matchup there. And interesting, funny fact. I believe that Joel Embiid still hasn't played a game in Denver since 2019.
You're right. I was gonna
Um,
mention this later when we talk about our
yeah,
top five like games that we look forward to the most. But that
uh,
that is something I wanted to bring up. Joel Embiid hasn't played at Denver since
that
2019. He's had like
it,
so many excuses to duck them. So I want to see if he actually is willing to man up and play at Denver, but we'll see, I guess.
yeah. I was gonna say like, is this man gonna flake out again? Like, come on, man. Yeah. Um, it's that's really funny though. Like, damn, it's really been that long since he played in that city.
He we had a whole pandemic before Embiid returned to Colorado. That's crazy.
Yeah. Fucking insane. But anyhow, I guess we'll continue the rivalry games, our rivalry week games, now to Wednesday, January 22nd. So the first game is going to be the Timberwolves at the Mavs, who would be their second meeting in like 3 weeks, having played the Christmas Day game, as we mentioned earlier. And then the second game that night would be the Northern California rivalry matchup between the Golden State Warriors and the Sacramento Kings. Always good, entertaining matchups there between those two teams, especially that 7-game playoff series in 2023. So yeah, more interesting matchups here. However, easily the better matchup is the rematch of the Western Conference Finals, being the Timberwolves and the Mavs. Memo, any thoughts there?
I agree with you. I think that's the key game of that night. Uh, Usually, like the Warriors and Kings games from the last 2 seasons have been consistently pretty good, as you mentioned. They went
Yeah,
to a 7-game series last year. The Kings knocked out the Warriors' hopes into getting into the playoffs. So their rivalry is definitely brewing. We all know the
yeah,
Draymond Green and Sabonis incident as well.
yeah.
But since the Warriors are gonna be weaker this year, I believe, I don't think this game will be as exciting. But I'm hoping for an exciting game. Um,
Oh yeah,
but we'll see. I guess we'll see. Now let's move on to Thursday, January 23rd. We got Heat versus Bucks. That's a rivalry that's been brewing recently, especially uh, after what happened 2 years ago with the Heat knocking out the Bucks, 8 seed knocking out the first seed. That was crazy. And then the most classic rivalry in probably sports history: Celtics versus Lakers. And I'm hoping for a Lakers win there, baby. Like, I don't,
yeah.
I would cry if the
Hope
Celtics won.
so. Yeah, I mean, yeah. last year we did beat Boston in Boston without LeBron and AD, so you never know. It's possible.
It definitely
Anyhow,
is.
yeah. Um, rivalry narrative historically, I would say um Celtics Lakers, but if we're talking about like the state of the two teams this coming season, I don't know which one will be better. Honestly, maybe still Celtics and Lakers,
I
simply
think
due
so.
to simply due to the fact that like the Heat haven't really been a regular season team the last few years, and the Bucks kind of do have a lot of question marks there also. So give me the Celtics Lakers as the better game for that night.
Yeah, same for the same reasons that you mentioned. I also think the Lakers might be good.
I
I think
honestly,
maybe it's the Lakers fan in me, but I have a feeling they might be good this year, and I guess we'll talk
yeah,
about that later in the off season. We'll probably do what we did last year, where we predicted our uh the seedings for the season, like who's gonna end up being first seed, who's gonna end up in the play-in tournament, and so on. But I do think the Lakers are gonna be good.
yeah. I will say this though. Probably a lot of it has to do with like the frustration of not making very many moves in the offseason, aside from the draft and re-signing Max Christie. But at the end of the day, I feel like probably a lot of fans are like over panicking a little bit, and when it's all said and done, team will probably be okay, honestly.
Yeah, I think if they're healthy, they're gonna be good. And I think the biggest reason
Yeah,
why be even they're gonna be better than last year is that we don't have Darvin Ham, and you know my thoughts on Darvin Ham. I was not a
yeah,
fan of his. I think JJ Redick will be better by comparison, but you know it's not saying much because again it's Darvin Ham.
yeah. Right, exactly. And yeah, definitely that. And yeah, my only concern is like last year LeBron and AD were so healthy. They both played like 70 plus games. I feel like the chances of that happening again are very low because they're not really the most durable players at this stage of their careers, but I'm going to try to be positive and hope they can sustain something at least somewhat close to that. Um anyhow, I guess we can talk more about Lakers and the predictions in another video,
Mm-hmm.
as mentioned. Um, Getting back to our program here, um, Friday, January 24th, is actually only one rivalry game, and that is the Pelicans and the Grizzlies.
Probably the
I feel like,
weirdest rivalry to me.
yeah,
I actually don't know why they're rivals. Do you know why?
I think that this one is like very light, and it's probably just labeled as a rivalry because they're in the same division, the Southwest Division. And then obviously like battle of the top two picks from 2019, Zion versus Ja. Um,
Okay,
so that'd
maybe
be interesting.
that's why. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I feel like both teams are gonna be good. I don't know who's going to be better though, honestly. Like because Pelicans are pretty good, honestly, and I think they could be good again this year. Obviously, last year they did slip a little bit and barely make the eighth seed, but I think maybe they could be better. We'll see. And the Grizzlies definitely will be better this year, obviously, because they were injury plagued last year, and that was the only reason why they were not good. Because, as we all mentioned many times before, the few games that John Morant played, the Grizzlies were showing very good flashes. So, give us a full healthy year of John Morant, guaranteed they'll be right back in the playoff mix. But definitely, I think this will be an interesting matchup. Um, Memphis being at home, I would probably give them the edge there for this game. But yeah, should be a good one.
Right. And then we got one last day for Rivals Week, which has the most games. It has 3 games, and it's probably the best day, honestly. We got Nuggets versus Timberwolves, so a rematch from the semifinals. We got a finals rematch with Celtics and Mavs, and then we got the classic California rivalry between the Lakers and Warriors, LeBron versus Steph. We had a great game last year, and I'm expecting another great game this year. This is probably the game I'll be looking forward to the most. What about you?
Oh yeah. Me personally, definitely the game I'm gonna be looking forward to most. Um, as far as which game I think will be best, um, it's gonna be between Lakers, Warriors, and the Nuggets, and the Timberwolves. And I would say hard to say honestly. I will say it's one thing to note is when the Nuggets and the Timberwolves played each other last year, there were quite a few blowout games. So this is a game that should be close, but you just never know if there will be a blowout. But obviously, it's possible for all the games. I would just say, I would just say Warriors Lakers the number one edge simply due to the fact that like those two superstars, we don't know how much longer they're going to be in the league, and they always put up a show against each other. So I'll give them the edge there. And then I'll say second, Nuggets Timberwolves, and last is the finals rematch.
Yeah, I think the finals rematch and Nuggets Timberwolves are kind of interchangeable with each other for me. But
Yeah,
yeah, definitely Lakers and Warriors are gonna be the best, and we gotta appreciate those games the most since they have aging stars on those teams.
definitely.
But yeah, that's it for Rivals Week. Now moving on January 23rd and 25th. So this is also technically during Rivals Week, I believe. But yeah, on 23rd and 25th, they're gonna have some games in Paris, France. Uh, which is gonna be Spurs versus Pacers. We all know the Spurs has Victor Wembanyama, a Frenchman, so it's a good idea to have the Spurs play over there in Paris, and him alone is gonna bring a lot of excitement to those Paris games, because that's like the only time they can basically see him. Um, so yeah, Spurs versus Pacers. What you think about that matchup?
I think it's an interesting matchup to say the least. Obviously, these two teams not being rivals whatsoever. Really cool that they brought Wemby, a Frenchman himself, to play in his homeland country. And the Pacers obviously coming off a impressive year, regardless of the injuries that happened in the Eastern Conference Finals, they still got there. So congrats to them there. I think this is definitely an interesting matchup they picked, and definitely better than the Mexico matchup. Because
Yeah,
both of these teams should be good, or at least better. Versus the other game, one team will probably be good, and the other team would just be horrible.
right.
Um, yeah, but I do think it's cool that NBA is having them play two games both in against each other in Paris, so that way, like the fans have two opportunities to see the teams play. Um, though it is interesting for an Eastern and a Western team to play each other like two times that close to each other, but they got to try something different, I guess. So interesting move there and interesting matchup.
Yeah, kind of random matchup, but it'll be
Yeah.
fun nevertheless. Moving on,
Mm-hmm.
not a day with notable games, but it is a notable date to keep in mind. February 6th. That's actually my sister's birthday, uh, and right after yours too. Uh,
Yeah,
we
right after.
we got the NBA trade deadline, so I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of drama going on, and we'll definitely be talking about what goes on around this time. When once we get there, maybe it'd be cool to do like a live stream as well, just like trying to stream uh, whenever, like towards the end of the trade deadline, in case anything big happens or something. But usually, like last year wasn't too big, so we'll see
Yeah,
about
there was
that.
not.
Yeah. But yeah, after that, we got All Star Game weekend on February 14th through the 16th. So, uh, basically the Valentine's Day weekend. We got, the NBA All Star festivities. We got the All Star Game, and it's all gonna be held in San Francisco. So, although we all complain every year, it is something that I always look forward to. I always love the conversations about who's going to be an all star this year and seeing the jersey, stuff like that. The game is usually not as exciting as the
Yeah,
conversations, but I'll be tuning in for sure.
yeah, for sure. All Star Weekend is honestly really just a break for the non All Stars, and then for the All Stars to have some fun before they have their shortened break. And then comes the second half of the year where everything goes down to the wire, like everything matters from there. But yeah, the last few All Star weekends I believe have been very underwhelming. Hopefully this year it can get better.
Hopefully, I doubt though. uh,
Yeah, honestly, doubt it. Um,
but yeah, after that, as you said, it's the race to the playoffs, and by April 13th is the end of the season. April 15th through 18th is the NBA play-in tournament, and after that is finished, we'll know the seedings for the NBA playoffs that begin on April 19th. So those are all the biggest and important dates to keep in mind. We covered a lot of games that are scheduled during this time as well. But now what we're gonna do is briefly go over some other games that we are looking forward to that might not be something that we brought up. So where should we start off?
yeah, I think we'll start off from towards the beginning of the year. So this one is kind of like a random matchup, but somewhat semi notable. That being OKC at Chicago on October 26th. So obviously those two teams made a trade with each other in the offseason. Really dumb trade for the Bulls, giving up a really good all around two-way player in Alex Caruso for Josh Giddey. Yeah, that also happens to be Josh Giddey's first home game as a Chicago Bull, and I feel like it should be not close if everything goes to plan. Um, OKC should beat the brakes off of the Bulls, but we'll see. I mean, obviously, upsets happen, but yeah, I would say this one is more of like a random game we pick out, not necessarily going to be the most interesting game like on the
Yeah.
court.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
added this one just for the drama because obviously the game is it's gonna suck. The Bulls are not gonna be any good, but
yeah,
I wanted to add this game because I really was curious about uh the Chicago Bulls fans and their first reaction seeing Josh Giddey on the court for the very first time, because this is their first home game of the season, and it's interesting that their first home game is against OKC, which is Giddey's past team. So just for the dramatics of it all, that's why I added this game. But yeah, the game itself is probably gonna suck. What
yeah,
won't suck is, or I hope it won't suck, but I doubt it. Spurs versus OKC, October 30th, almost Halloween. Chet versus Wemby year two. They had some great matchups last year, where I feel like every time Wemby, took the edge, even if he loses the games, he still like outplays Chet, I believe. But either way, they're both gonna be even better than last year, and they're both gonna be fun to watch.
definitely. That one will be a very good matchup like last year. Battle of the Twin Towers, the future of the NBA should be a good one. And obviously San Antonio and OKC being rivals too, so add that to the mix. Um, The next game, though, I listed a few games between rookies. First game being Wizards and the Hawks on October 28th. The battle of the French Phenoms. First meeting between number 1 versus number 2, that being Risache versus Sar. Now, do I think now obviously Wizards are a horrible team. Hawks will probably be middle of the mix, so will the actual game performance be like the best entertainment? Maybe not, but the battle between the rookies storyline, I would say so. So honestly, it just added that because number 1 pick versus number 2 pick going at it for the first time.
Yeah, fair enough. I feel like if it was any other draft class, this would be a lot more exciting. But because of
Yeah,
this specific draft class, it's like whatever. Like not a lot of
yeah,
people care. Uh, but yeah, we also added another rookie matchup too, right?
yeah. And I think this one will be better, honestly. This one is a rematch of the national championship. Obviously, UConn versus Purdue in the March Madness national championship, which UConn won pretty handily. And one of the key matchups in that was the Battle of the Bigs, Zach Edey versus Donovan Clingan. And this would be their first matchup in the big leagues. So should be interesting there. Obviously, the history in the national championship. Now both of them made it. Should be interesting for sure. And both of these teams are going. Well, Portland is probably not going to be a very good team, but they might be better. Memphis should be a good team. All in all, though, I do think this one will probably low key be a more entertaining game than the Wizards and the Hawks game.
True. True. Yeah, I agree. I think yeah, the Portland. I don't want to watch a Portland Blazers game, but I think the matchup is a bit more interesting there. Where should we go next? What should we talk about next?
Yeah. I think the next game we can go over is the I would say next game we can go over could be the rematch of the NBA Finals on which we actually talked about
Yeah, we talked about
very briefly.
that one.
Yeah, so maybe we can skip that honestly. But Point Blank is it's just the two teams meeting again.
Yeah, it's a finals rematch,
Yeah,
so that alone is gonna be exciting.
yeah, for sure. Anyhow, I believe well, we talked about a matchup between these two teams, but not that specific date. And that would be Denver at Minnesota on November 1st, which this one would actually be their first meeting of the year after the highly competitive 7-game series in last year's semifinals. I think for sure will be a very good matchup. Denver trying to get revenge and Minnesota trying to beat them again pretty much to get like the fodder rights, if you want to call it. Um, yeah, should be an interesting one there.
Yeah, that should
Obviously,
be a
also
great game.
also a in division matchup and 2 seed versus 3 seed last year. Who knows? Could be 1 seed and 2 seed this year.
Yeah.
We'll see. Um, anyhow, I think the next game we can go over. Honestly, I guess we can go over a few Laker matchups.
Let's do that, yeah.
First one is the Nuggets at the Lakers on November 23rd. Lakers looking to get their revenge after the previous 2 playoff series that didn't go in our favor. Usually we play Denver really tough, and then something dumb happens at the end.
We
Hopefully,
will
change
play
this.
so good for most of the game, and then the last 2 minutes we lose it all. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's crazy.
And last year, the two of us got to go see the Lakers play against the
Oh yeah.
Nuggets the night LeBron broke history. Cool moment there, but obviously another unfortunate loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Nuggets really do spoil our like cool moments though. Like, Kobe's statue reveal night, LeBron's scoring record, and not cool for us, but like obviously Denver's own ring ceremony, they also beat us. So yeah, hopefully this year we can change the narratives a little bit with Denver looking like they weakened a bit.
I hope
um,
so.
definitely. But the next game I listed was December 31st, the Lakers versus the Cavs in LA. This one happens to be LeBron's first game at 40 years old on his birthday, which I think is notable because one, he is the old man of the league. Obviously, he's already the oldest in the league right now, but he's going to be 40. Like, you can just tell, like, sadly, the end is coming very soon. So, definitely got to cherish every moment there. But I just think that the story makes it so much better that he's playing against his former team. And maybe the only thing that would have been even better is if he played the Cavs in Cleveland so that he's playing in his hometown for his birthday. But playing at home
Yeah, that would have been
also
cool for him.
yeah, definitely. But playing at home against his former team, still pretty cool though. So cool matchup there. I think will be quite fun and entertaining to watch. Next game I listed, also another Lakers matchup. I listed was Lakers at Clippers on January 19th. And this happens to be the Lakers' first visit to the Intuit Dome. And aka the Lakers' first home game at the Intuit Dome. So that will be something to look forward to for sure.
Are we gonna go?
I would like to go.
It'd be
We'll look
fun.
into
Yeah, we'll look at
yeah,
we'll look into it when the time comes.
yeah,
Damn, I can't speak.
yeah. We will look into it to the Intuit Dome. Yeah. Yeah, that would be really cool though, honestly. We get to witness a home game in a different stadium. Yeah. Hopefully a win too.
Yeah, I
That
hope
would be
so.
yeah. But yeah, that one should be fun. Um the next game though was a game that we briefly talked about earlier and we could go a little bit more in depth. That being the rivalry rivalry oh my gosh, rivalry week game between the Sixers and the Nuggets. And obviously, as mentioned earlier, Joel Embiid hasn't played a game in Denver since November 8th of 2019. Is that going to continue? I mean,
It
come
better
on.
not. Like, dude, you gotta
Yeah,
man up and face the Serbian. Like,
yeah, like it's
it's
going
crazy.
to almost like we're running on damn near 7 years, or well, it's damn near 6 years, which is really crazy. Um, yeah, like seriously, pre-pandemic. That's yeah. But yeah, hopefully Embiid just mans up and doesn't flake out again and gives us the matchup that we want to see. Obviously, we've seen it in Philly. They're like, come on, man, just play in Denver this time. Anyhow, that should be a good matchup if he does play. If not, Denver should just easily win, honestly. Maybe not easily, but they should win
They should
nonetheless.
be able to get the win. Yeah.
Yeah, at home, like yeah, they should. But the next slate of games I think are very interesting because they are all listed rivalry, revenge game. I'm not rivalry. Revenge games opportunities.
I love a good
And
revenge game.
definitely. And I think the first one potentially could be the most interesting one, or one of them. And that would be the Mavericks at the Warriors on November 12th. This would be Klay Thompson's first return trip to the Bay Area. The game will be on TNT. And obviously, the Mavericks visiting the Warriors at the Chase Center. So we'll see what happens there. I would expect the Warriors fans to give Klay a warm welcome. I mean, he was a big part of those championship dynasty years.
They
Why would
definitely should be. If not,
yeah,
that's gonna be like the most disappointing thing ever.
Yeah. I will say, like, some fans though, like some fan bases, like, have no shame. They forget about all the good times just because of like the way the player maybe left the way they didn't like. But um, yeah, Warriors fans, they definitely should be cheering on Clay in his return. He did so much for that franchise. They clearly would not have gone where they did without him as a part of the core. Um, but yeah, that should be a good one there. The next revenge game I listed was the Sixers at the Clippers on November 6th. This being Paul George's return to LA for the first time after leaving in free agency. And obviously, this time going to be at the Intuit Dome, which he never played at. So, definitely going to be interesting there. And this one, I feel like maybe there's going to be a mixed reaction. Like, I feel like maybe some Clippers fans are going to be booing Paul George due to
I
the
think
way
so
he
too.
exited.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that there's definitely multiple factors. One being the fact that, like, Paul George kept on saying his will of wanting to win a championship there, but clearly never happened. He did end their curse of never getting past the second round. So, I mean, that's something there. But yeah, I think they probably also mad because of a few of the comments that he said on his podcast. Like, one being noted that he mentioned how playing on the Clippers, he fairly felt like, obviously felt like he was the second unit due to the Lakers being the clear more popular team in LA. But the thing is, like, they can be mad at him, but is he lying? Like, no, everyone knows that's a fact. The Lakers are clearly way more popular than the Clippers. Like, don't blame him, blame your own franchise.
Honestly, like I don't know
Um,
why he complained. Like you should have known this before joining the
yeah,
Clippers. Like
he
if you
should have.
didn't want to be second fiddle, you should have joined the Lakers. It's as
Exactly.
easy as that. So that's on Paul George, honestly. I don't even
Definitely.
blame the fans. That's on him.
Yeah. And I will say this one thing that's really funny about Paul George, I remember when he talked about his childhood, he mentioned how Kobe was his favorite player, but the Clippers were his favorite team. Like, how does that work? Um, like,
No
you
idea.
should just, yeah, like, you should just be a fan of your favorite player's team. Like, and on top of that, like, the Lakers that were literally, like, one of the top teams in the league, and the Clippers are one of the worst teams in the
Yeah,
league.
it's
Like,
not
it
even
doesn't make
like
sense.
it wasn't even like he was there for the Blake Griffin Clippers, which is what kind of blew up the
No,
Clippers. Like,
yeah, he
what
was
was he
there
watching?
for yeah, he was there for the Elton Brand Clippers, or probably Baron
God,
Davis, Chris Kaman.
Chris Kaman.
Yeah,
He watched Chris Kaman play basketball and decided to be a Clippers fan. That's embarrassing.
yeah, that's like very unheard of. But yeah, I definitely will see a mixed reaction coming. Honestly, low key, maybe more boos than cheers, but we'll see. Anyhow, that will actually be Clippers and the Sixers will be playing each other both meetings this year within the span of 2.5 weeks, both in November. So NBA pretty much just said get these two matchups out of the way. um, but yeah, that one should be a good one for sure. The next revenge game I listed was Nets at Knicks. So obviously Battle of New York for the first time since the blockbuster trade in the summer. And that's the one that sent Mikal Bridges to the Knicks, crossing the bridge. Pun intended. But yeah, that should be interesting for those headlines. But for the game itself, though, really shouldn't be that interesting because the Knicks are way better than the Nets in 2024, 2025. That would have been a different story like 3, 4, 5 years ago. But now, clearly, the Knicks are way better. So, yeah, the game itself, not going to be that good. But the headlines, definitely interesting there.
I don't even think the headline's that interesting because Mikael Bridges had like 1.5 good season with the Nets. It's not like he's a Nets legend or anything. He
Yeah,
was just good on their team for a little bit.
we just didn't play with them long enough. That's the thing.
Yeah,
But definitely very shocking that they traded him to a in division and crosstown rival though.
they
So
needed the picks.
yeah, I guess gotta do what you gotta do. But the last game that we listed that is also a part of revenge games, which I think is more so just like for the headlines, but probably not gonna be that good of a game, is the Kings versus the Bulls on January 12th. And that being DeMar DeRozan's return to Chicago after the trade in the offseason. Um, Kings should be probably a pretty good team. They might miss the playoffs again due to how stacked the Western Conference is, but we'll see there. I think they'll definitely be in contention. But the Bulls, though, they're not going to be good this year, clearly, after like pretty much blowing it up aside from Zach LaVine. Yeah. The only headline here I really think is DeMar returning back to Chicago. Aside from that, the game itself probably won't be very good.
Yeah, I agree. I think the games could be trash, but DeRozan was actually like a fan favorite there in Chicago.
Definitely.
So he's definitely gonna
I
receive a
think,
lot of love when he returns.
oh, yeah, for sure. He'll definitely get plenty of cheers when he returns, and should be a cool storyline there for sure.
Yeah. But that's it for the revenge games. We covered a lot of
Yeah.
games that we should all be excited for. And now to end things off, we're gonna give our top five most anticipated games for the season. I got my list down, and I think we should go like number by number. So we'll start at five. We'll reveal our fives together, and then our fours together. Three, two, until one, and then obviously do a quick recap. Okay, so starting at number five, I kind of cheated a little bit. I didn't put one specific game. I put the start date for the Emirates NBA Cup. So whatever game's
Mm,
playing that day, that's what I'm most anticipating for. Because I've been a big fan of the cup, so yeah, I'm excited for it. What about you?
okay.
What's at number five for you?
So, fair enough. Definitely very interesting answer, and definitely going to be interesting matchups. Um, for me, number five, I just say Thunder and Spurs because of the big man matchup, the fate of the NBA's future. I thought about putting them higher, but honestly, there were just a few other matchups that I felt like somewhat intrigued me a little bit more. So number five on this list, pretty good matchup there, I would say, for nobody worthy of this list for me.
That is a good matchup because that's actually my number four. My number four
Mm,
is Spurs versus OKC. Chet versus Wemby once again. They had some classic matchups last year, and I'm sure they're gonna have some more classics in store this year. Yeah, so it should be exciting. So that's my number four.
definitely.
What about you?
Um, number four, I put Lakers versus Warriors, simply due to the obviously final stages of LeBron versus Steph rivalry matchups. And as mentioned earlier, they had some really good matchups last year. I expect no different, honestly. Like, um, we don't know how good these two teams will be. Like, the Lakers should be better. The Warriors probably shouldn't be that good, but who knows? I mean, there could be good or bad surprises from either side. Nonetheless, I think they will give us a whole lot more entertaining matchups between the two, per usual.
Yeah, I agree. I do not have it in my list, but that's definitely an honorable mention for sure.
For
Uh,
sure.
let's move on to number three. I got Timberwolves at Mavs. Just one of my favorite playoff series from last year was Timberwolves versus Mavs. Not last year, this past playoff run, and I think it's gonna be fun watching them play against each other again. I think the Ant and Luca matchups are always fun to watch, and yeah, that's why I have them this high, number 3.
Nice. That's a really good matchup, and I do happen to have them on my list. Number 3 though, I just put the another matchup. I put the Nuggets and the Timberwolves simply because of the very entertaining 7-game series they put up last year. Now, obviously, some of the games weren't necessarily the most entertaining, being like blowouts involved, but overall, though, I did like that series a lot.
Yeah, it was a good
And
series.
I think once again, gonna be very fun to watch this year. And like, yeah, that's why I had to put them on my list. So should be fun again.
Nice. For number 2, we talked about this a couple times already, but Philly at Denver, again specifically at Denver, to see if Joel Embiid will actually face Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets at Denver, because he's been ducking. He's been ducking for years. So we'll see if it will happen, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good one for sure. And I definitely somehow I didn't really think about that one on top 5, but still a good matchup though. And yeah, hopefully Embiid does not duck. Just give us the performance we wanted to see in Denver for once. Also, like, feel bad for the Sixers fans that live in Denver, if there are any, never being able to see their superstar play there.
That's very true. Yeah.
Yeah. For my number 2 on the list, I put the Knicks and the Celtics simply because I'm really curious to see how the new look Knicks match up against the Celtics. Now, I will say, like, definitely somewhat shocking that I added a Celtics game on here since I absolutely hate that team. But I do think that this matchup itself, though, is going to be very interesting. And that's why I put them on the list, honestly. Hopefully the Knicks win, though, for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely very interesting. I wasn't expecting a Celtics game on here.
Yeah. It's the hope of them losing to a team in the future, potentially.
All right,
Yeah.
fair enough. And then for
Yeah.
my number 1 game, give me Dallas at Golden State, the first matchup where Klay Thompson returns to the Bay Area. I think that's going to be a very emotional game and a cool revenge game to look out for. So, to me, I think that's got to be number 1, the biggest and the game that I most anticipate for.
Nice. So I definitely thought about putting this game on my list. Ultimately, I just felt there were a few other games that were more interesting, in my opinion, in terms of like actual team matchups as opposed to like the narratives of a revenge game. But definitely that one, very good. But that being said, my number 1 just happened to be the Woes and the Mavs. Honestly, I put this as number 1 just because like the playoff matchup they had last year wasn't necessarily the closest in terms of the result, 4-1. But I feel like the 4-1 result really doesn't do that much justice for how much the series was actually closer than it sounded. And obviously, like the first 2 games being like nail biters at the end, the um, game winner by Luka, a few collapses by Minnesota down the stretch. It could have easily been much closer. I think these 2 teams will put on the show again and definitely could be competing for top seeds once again. Now, I did mention that I believe Dallas will take a step back this year, but I still think this for sure is going to be a damn good matchup here for certain. So this is why I put the Wolves and the Mavs as my number 1 for games looking forward to this year.
Fair enough. You just want to watch Luca cook Rudy Gobert again, don't you?
I don't mind that, honestly. However, I do like the Timberwolves as a team better than the Mavs. So
Oh, I forgot
kind of
about that.
torn.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of torn about that, honestly, because I'm not really a Rudy Gobert fan, but like I do like the Timberwolves as a team. So like, yeah, I guess that's a game where it's like I don't really mind either side winning, but that's just hoping for good games, honestly.
Hmm.
But definitely last year, disappointment there because I really do believe that if the Timberwolves played against the Celtics, they would have put up a tougher fight than the Mavs did.
Yeah. True.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see.
Should be a good matchup once again.
Yeah. So let's just quickly recap our top five. So my number five was the uh, beginning of the Emirates NBA Cup. My number four was San Antonio Spurs versus OKC Thunder. Number three, Timberwolves versus Mavericks. Number two, Philly at Denver. And number one, Dallas at Golden State. What about you?
So number 5, I had OKC at San Antonio, or OKC versus San Antonio. Number 4, I had Lakers versus Warriors. Number 3, I had Nuggets versus Timberwolves. Number 2, I had Knicks versus Celtics, and at number 1, I had the Wolves versus the Mavs. Those were my top 5 games for 2024-2025.
And that was our video on this upcoming NBA schedule. Kind of a lengthy one. Hopefully, it was interesting to you guys. Uh, since, we were just talking about future games, not even about specific games,
Yeah.
not even about NBA, actual NBA basketball. We're talking about the future. But nevertheless, I hope you all enjoyed this episode. If you did, please leave a like, comment down below if you would like as well. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on podcasting platforms, follow our social medias as well. We'll try to get that going pretty soon. And yeah, anything you want to say before we head out?
Yeah, just want to say, per usual, thank you guys for the constant love and support. For those that really keep watching our videos, listening to us on Spotify, on our other platforms, and definitely, if you guys like our content, like, comment, subscribe, share. We definitely will be continuing interesting, cool, fire content during the off season. So stay tuned for that. And then before you know it, we'll be preseason, our training camp preseason, and then the regular season. So definitely no shortage of content there and something to look forward to. So make sure you guys stay tuned.
Yeah, we got something interesting for next week. So, again, stay tuned. But yeah, that's it for us. Happy birthday to Kobe Bryant. May he rest in peace. And
Yes, sir.
we'll see you all next week. Bye bye.
Yes, sir. Happy birthday to the GOAT in our eyes and the greatest Laker of all time. But on that note, thank you guys once again and catch y'all in the next one.
Later.